Hey, picture this. You're serving a life sentence for a really brutal crime, and then just like that, you're suddenly walking out of prison. Sounds like something from a movie, right?
Yeah, totally.
But this actually happened recently in Georgia.
It's almost unbelievable when you first hear it, isn't it? You think the justice system is, supposed to be airtight.
Exactly.
But this case with Kathan Guzman really makes you stop and think about where things can go really wrong.
Absolutely. So today we're doing a deep dive into this story, the story of Kathan Guzman. He was convicted for just the horrific strangulation murder of his girlfriend, Delilah Grayson. She was only 19. That was back in 2022.
Right.
And then somehow he was mistakenly released from prison.
Yeah, we've been looking at a detailed report from CBS News for this, and it really lays out the timeline, the step-by-step of what happened. Gives us some important perspectives, too.
And for everyone listening, you shared an interest in, well, understanding how these kinds of errors can even happen.
Yeah, the systemic breakdown aspect.
Right, and what the real-world fallout is. So that's what we're going to unpack today. How did this mistake occur? What about the, frantic search to get him back? And, maybe most importantly, the impact this had on Delilah Grayson's family.
It definitely pulls back the curtain a bit. Shows that even in these systems designed for, maximum security, there's still a human element.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that means errors can happen, errors with just huge consequences.
So let's start with the original crime itself. It was just devastating. August 2022, Kathan Guzman strangled his girlfriend, Delilah Grayson.
They'd known each other from high school, back in Kissimmee, Florida, apparently. But they both moved to Georgia.
Yeah, and the CBS report mentioned that Delilah was actually planning to move back to Florida. She wanted to study nursing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it paints this picture of a young woman with her whole future planned out. Makes it all the more tragic,
It really does, and Guzman confessed. He confessed to this awful crime, went through the courts, convicted, life sentence.
End of story, you'd think.
You would think. As terrible as it is.
Yeah.
But then, this unbelievable mistake happens. His release.
Yeah, according to the Clayton County Sheriff, the explanation given was, well, pretty basic. Jail employees apparently didn't read the paperwork carefully enough.
Seriously?
That's what they said. They missed the key details, that it was a murder conviction, that he had a life sentence. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Makes you wonder.
It really does. A life sentence, that's like the most serious thing there is. It's not a parking ticket. How could that just be overlooked? What kind of system allows that?
Oh, exactly. That makes you think about the checks and balances, right? Or the lack thereof. Where did the system fail?
Was it training, overworked staff, just bad communication?
Could be any of those, or maybe a combination. It definitely points to a weak spot in how critical information is handled.
And the timeline for realizing the mistake is also pretty, well, shocking. Guzman was released late last month.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until nearly 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday, that someone noticed. The Georgia Office of Victim Services couldn't find him in the corrections system.
That's how they found out, not through the jail itself.
Apparently not initially. Victim Services flagged it, then the prosecutor's office got involved, and they had to check the jail's computer system to confirm, yep, he'd been released.
Wow. Almost 2 weeks. A convicted murderer out there. Because of paperwork.
And think about the impact of that delay on Delilah Grayson's mother, Christina. It's just heartbreaking. She wasn't even told her daughter's killer was out until that Tuesday.
After the DA's office already knew.
After they'd confirmed it, yeah.
Oh, my God. Think about the terror she must have felt. She said it herself, didn't she? She felt like a sitting duck.
Exactly. And compounding that fear, authorities initially thought Guzman might have headed back to Osceola County, Florida.
Which is where she lives.
Which is where she lives.
That's just nightmare fuel. Knowing the person who killed your child is free and may be coming back to your area.
Unimaginable. The report said she was told police were supposed to be watching her house 24/7.
Well, I suppose that's something, but it also just underlines the danger she was put in.
Yeah.
And the complete failure to, keep her safe and informed from the get-go.
Yeah, it really shows how one mistake just ripples outwards, creating all this fear and uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, once they realized he was out, the hunt was on. Big time. Authorities, like we said, suspected Florida.
Right, Osceola County, maybe.
And the U.S. Marshals Service got involved. Their Southeast Regional Task Force in Atlanta found some leads suggesting he was in Florida.
Okay, so the feds stepped in?
Yep. And that's where you see the coordination kick in. The Atlanta team got the info, contacted their counterparts down in Florida.
The Florida Caribbean Regional Fugitive Task Force, right?
That's the one. And they worked with the local Orange County Sheriff's
It's
Office.
a good collaboration there, at least.
And thankfully, it paid off. On a Friday, they caught him. Without incident, the report said.
Okay, good.
At a house in Ocoee, which is near Orlando, so back in custody. U.S. Marshals got him, held in Orange County Jail.
Phew. The relief must have been huge. For everyone, but especially for Christina Grayson.
Oh, absolutely. Now, let's talk about the official reactions. Clayton County DA Tasha Mosley. She was, not happy.
I can imagine.
She stated very clearly, all appropriate paperwork was sent to the appropriate people, and that she had, quote, no idea why they released this man.
So pointing the finger pretty squarely at the sheriff's office or the jail staff.
Seems like it. She also said her office was just as disappointed and pissed off as everybody else.
That's strong language. Shows how seriously they viewed this mess up. It wasn't just a minor slip.
No kidding. But then Christina Grayson mentioned something else. She said Georgia police told her the release was due to a coding error.
Huh. A coding error. That's different from not reading the paperwork.
Right. So now we have these two kind of conflicting explanations floating around.
That is interesting. Was a human error, a tech glitch, both. You know, did someone fail to read it? And maybe there was a system issue that made it easier to miss.
Good question. Getting clarity on that seems pretty vital if they want to stop it from happening again.
Absolutely. You need to know the root cause.
Definitely. And then there's another layer here. The lack of public notification.
Oh, yeah. What about that?
Well, as of Friday morning, even after they knew he was out and potentially in Florida, the Clayton County Sheriff's Office hadn't put out any public alerts. No warning, no picture, nothing about where he might be.
Seriously, for how long?
Yeah.
He was out for almost 2 weeks and recaptured on a Friday.
And by Friday morning, still no official public word from the sheriff's office about the mistaken release itself. A spokesman apparently did say they were planning to release a statement and photo through Nixle.
Which is that alert system, yeah.
Right. But the delay, I mean, a convicted murderer is out by mistake, possibly heading to another state. You'd think getting the word out ASAP would be priority number one, wouldn't you?
You really would. That lack of timely communication is concerning. It potentially put the public at risk, especially if he hadn't gone straight to Florida or if someone had seen him earlier.
It makes you question their procedures for, emergency public information.
Yeah, it's a tough balance sometimes, verifying info versus public safety urgency.
Mm.
But for something this severe, seems like you'd err on the side of caution and get the alert out quickly.
Totally agree. Okay, so let's just recap the main points here. Kathan Guzman, convicted of murder, life sentence.
Mistakenly released from a jail in Georgia.
For the reason. Either someone heard the paperwork right, or maybe a coding error, possibly both. We're not totally sure.
And this massive error wasn't caught for almost 2 weeks.
Causing just immense fear for the victim's mother, who wasn't told promptly and lives where they thought he might be headed.
Thankfully, a multi-agency effort involving the U.S. Marshals led to his recapture in Florida.
Right. And as you were interested in from the start, this whole saga really spotlights how critical, simple accuracy and, basic checks are in the justice system.
Yeah. A seemingly small administrative slip-up can have terrifying real-world consequences for the family, for public safety, for trust in the system itself.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About all the different steps and people involved in keeping things running correctly. What kind of fail-safes should exist to prevent something like this? A life sentence just miss.
What happens to public trust when those systems fail so spectacularly? That's definitely something to chew on long after we wrap up today.